Okay, in this video we are going to finish up this walk cycle by putting in some small adjustments like some tail bouncing and um, uh, finishing up bringing it into a repeating walk cycle by stacking each one of these frames on top of each other. So let's start by adjusting this tail movement. And one thing that we really need to consider is that when will the tail bounce? So at the recoil, as all the weight is getting thrust down, this is when the tail is actually going to bounce down or up. Let's try it up, and then on the high point, make it go down a little bit. So, with just the tail selected, this is the recoil. Make sure that I'm on the recoil, and I'm going to rock this tail back just enough. And when I go to the high point, I'm going to rock it down just enough. So in the passing, let's turn everything off right now and put on some onion skinning. So in the passing, we want to make this look smoother. So, and this is the arc I'm talking about, this point right here. So this is actually called giving something an accent. So it holds, it's similar, and then it pops up. So when I make everything visible and okay, so now we're going to go to the recoil, and again on this one, this is when the tail is going to bounce up slightly, and the high point is when it is going to bounce down slightly. This also means in the passing, again, let's turn all this off, turn on, bring it down a little bit closer. What this possibly also means is that at the contact, that it's still going to be down a little bit. And I want to copy that frame over, so I'm going to right click on that frame. Now this is completely optional. If you don't want to mess with the tail or anything, no points against you. Copy that frame, and I'm going to paste it onto the first one. Paste, and it's going to start off over here, so I'm going to hold down shift and bring it in there. Might have to use arrow keys to adjust it just right, and take off the onion skin and see what we got when we scroll through that. So now that tail has a little bit of life to it. Okay, I'm going to save it, and the next thing I want to do is I want to drag each one of these frames on top of each other. But I'm not going to do that on the timeline. I'm actually going to grab the physical character and do that. But before I can do that, I need a guide. And this guide is going to help me centralize the character. So you see this cross pivot right here? This is the pivot I'm going to use to make sure she stays center throughout this whole walk cycle. If you don't have that pivot on yours, the best thing you can do is create that pivot by using the line tool. So I'm using N and holding down Shift, I'm going to make an X. Try that one. Okay, I'm going to make an X. And on that X, on this one, I'm going to call it X. Lock it. This is where I want to drag each one of these next frames over. So I'm going to save it in case I mess up. I can go back. Okay, so I'm going to go to the recoil. Now, keep in mind, that this X right here is marked on, keep in mind, do your best to keep in mind the location of this X from the previous frame. So I'm going to now, using the selection tool, selecting the whole character, using the shift arrows, get that as close as I can. See, I did it. It was right on. So my indicator is this line. Do your best to find the indicator that works best for you. So now on the passing, I'm going to make a selection using the shift. There we go. And you can always scrub back to see. That's beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to continue on with this process, grabbing the whole thing, using shift and the arrows. So again, I'm trying to get it in line with this. You can always test it. Yep, that looks good. Now the contact. So I'm going to continue to do this throughout all of them. Holding down shift, arrows, and recoil. Went too far. And passing. Now this is going to be a new document. I'm going to save it as cycle, walk cycle. So I'll have both of these. I'll have the walk and I'll have the walk cycle. Make sure it's in line with this line. Ooh, there we go. That's good. And the final contact. There we go. So I'm going to quickly save as. And this one I'm going to call Sally Walk Cycle. So now it's completely different. I can go back. I can actually open the Sally Walk and double click in there, and she still walks linear in a linear line. And now when we go to the walk cycle, you can see she walks in place. And if I hit command return or control return, I now have this wonderful cycle of Sally walking right in place. And I can just imagine this beautiful background of Paris. I do see some floating going on with that tail. So what I can do now, I think this will work. I'm going to clear the final contact keyframe. Why? Because now when it loops, it's going to start with this contact. So actually I'll need to remove this last set of frames too. And now I can get rid of that guide layer. I don't need it. And now when I export it, I have a little bit smoother walk and the tail's not so poppy. That's a fantastic walk cycle. That is perfect. Now I am 100% pleased with this walk cycle, and I haven't even put tweens in here, and I don't even know if it's necessary. But we can try it and see what happens. So in the middle of these things, not in any of the keys themselves, but in the middle, right click and create classic tween. It's a little tedious, but this one will not work because we got rid of that frame. So now let's export it and see how it looks. It's a little bit smoother. There is a lag now because she holds. So what we can do to get rid of that lag is copy this set of frames over again one more time. So all of them selected, copy frames, and paste them back, paste frames, and hit classic tween. Let's see what this looks like. Now that's a really nice looking walk. That tail's kind of bothering me. But I can live with it. I can live with it. Alright, so if you have any questions regarding your walk cycle, bring them to class, address them on the discussion board, shoot me an email, whatever. But I will see you in the next class, and we can discuss whatever. Thank you again for all the hard work you have put in.